Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. My name is Martin Estrada. I'm the United States Attorney. We are gathered here today to announce a historic civil rights settlement involving the U.S. Department of Justice and the County of Los Angeles. This historic civil rights settlement addresses voting rights for people with disabilities. Specifically, it addresses access to voting centers throughout the County of Los Angeles for people with mobility and visual disabilities. This agreement covers the entirety of the County of Los Angeles, which, as you know, is the largest county by population in the country. The right to vote is an essential civil right. A democracy cannot exist without affording its citizens the right to vote. Marginalized groups have fought since the beginning of this country's founding for the right to vote. From the struggles of Black Americans to attain the right of vote with the 15th Amendment, to the struggles for women's suffrage that culminated with the passage of the 19th Amendment, to the continued work and struggles throughout the 20th century and today to ensure the right to vote is meant for all. The right to vote is paramount. One civil rights struggle that has not gotten as much attention, however, is the fight for accessibility. The fight for accessibility has not gotten the attention it deserves. Too often, we neglect people with disabilities in our community. But fighting for accessibility is a core civil right, and it's essential that we make clear that accessibility applies to all. As Americans, we recognize this. We celebrate this summer the 34th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. This landmark piece of legislation requires that people with disabilities be treated the same as all other Americans. It requires and mandates that people with disabilities be given access, just like all other Americans. On this, the anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, I am proud to announce this historic settlement with the County of Los Angeles, which will ensure accessibility to voting rights centers for people with mobility and visual disabilities throughout the county. As you will recall, last year we filed a lawsuit in this matter, and we alleged violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act by the County of Los Angeles. That lawsuit was based on surveys that were conducted in 2016, 2020, and 2022 during elections. Through those surveys, we found that there were major issues in terms of accessibility at voting centers throughout the county. We surveyed over 100 voting centers and found that virtually all were not in compliance with the ADA. They had architectural barriers, things such as steep slopes, wide gaps and abrupt level changes in walkways or entrance doors, protruding objects from walls, and lack of accessible parking. Now, the county, which, as I mentioned, is the largest in the country by population, has agreed with us to make and take action which will address these accessibility issues. Specifically, the county has agreed to first hire an independent accessibility expert who will help develop policies and procedures to help select new voting centers that provide for accessibility for people with visual and mobility disabilities. That expert will also put in policies and procedures to help mitigate the accessibility issues at existing voting centers. Second, the county has agreed to use the expert to review and provide feedback on 600 or more existing voting centers. It will do that over a 3-year period. During that period, we, the U.S. Attorney's Office, will work closely with the county to ensure that these voting centers are providing accessibility to people with disabilities, mobility, and visual disabilities. This is a major and historic resolution for the cause of civil rights for people with disabilities. With this resolution, people with mobility and visual disabilities will have the ability to vote in person, along with their neighbors and friends. This resolution also sends a clear message that accessibility matters, that the ADA matters, and that voting rights apply to all in this country, including people with disabilities. I want to give some thanks for the resolution we were able to attain here. First, I want to thank our partners at the Civil Rights Division in Washington, D.C. That includes Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark, who worked closely with me on this resolution, and also the Disability Rights Section Chief, Rebecca Bond, and her team. I want to thank the Assistant United States Attorneys in my office who helped bring this resolution to fruition. That includes AUSA's Catherine Hikita, Matt Barragan, Margaret Chen, and Alexandra Young, as well as Civil Division Chief David Harris and Civil Rights Chief Richard Park. I also want to thank the County of Los Angeles for working with us, for collaborating, for coordinating to make sure we could achieve a resolution before election season that would provide real relief to people with disabilities. I also want to recognize and thank two of the plaintiffs who are here with us today. We have Carrie Madden, who's here with us today. Thank you for being here. We also have Dina Garcia, who's with us to my left. Thank you for being here as well. And I want to thank the folks at CalLife, who are also represented here, who work so hard to address these issues and bring to our attention the accessibility issues at these voting rights centers.